Allah has replaced those two. It was mentioned about holidays that were practiced before, or different practices before Islam. Allah has replaced those with other two that are better. In fact, in another hadith he says, "Inna likulli qawmin eida," that for every people they have an Eid, a festival, celebration. And he said, and our festival celebration is this Eid, or Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. These are celebrations because they come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They weren't man-made. Like Christmas is completely man-made. And so he said Allah has exchanged them with Yawm al-Adha and Yawm al-Fitr, the day of the sacrifice and the day of the breaking of the fast. These are our two holidays because they come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they come from God in the Quran. So then the other question is, are we allowed to celebrate other things that are non-religious? Before I get into that, I got to talk about a little bit of the history of Christmas, because that's what's the season that we're getting bombarded by. And how do we as Muslims respond, like when somebody says Merry Christmas and these kind of things? What about our neighbors and family members that are celebrating Christmas? Myself as a convert, obviously, my parents would not have liked it if I didn't come and celebrate and partake in the celebration. So what are we allowed to do? Anyways, so what are the origins? Before I get into that, I want to talk about the origins of Christmas a little bit, without getting into the weeds, because we can talk a lot about that. Even there are entire books that have been written about that. There's one book that I highly recommend by Bart Ehrman. He goes into in his famous book, and he has many bestsellers. And he, of course, anyone who knows about looks at what you call textual criticism of the New Testament and the Old Testament. He's probably one of the leading, if not the leading scholar about that. And he was a practicing Christian, and then after he started studying, he started becoming, his opinions in the book that I would recommend for you all to get, like basically, I think the title is How Did Jesus Become God? And because initially he was a prophet, and then how did he become God? If you look at his conclusions, they're all exactly is what Islam believes about Jesus alayhi salam. So how did it all start? Well, go way back in history, you have a thing called the Trinity. I'm not talking about Christianity, I'm talking way before Christianity. In Roman culture, they had someone called Dionysus, that they believed was a sun god, that they believed that he died, that he was born of a virgin, that he died for 3 days, then he came back, and then he was crucified on a cross. Okay? In Egyptian culture, they also have the same idea, and they even have those ancient crucifixes. It's like a cross. They put it on their chest, but it has a little thing on the top of it. You all seen that. Okay, so the Egyptians, they had their own version of this Trinity, this man God they believe that came and died for the sins of people. Then in Babylon, they had a Trinity, and the Trinity, they had the sun God. Okay? And they called him Nimrod, or Nimrod. And then he had a son, his name was Tammuz, and his wife was Estar. Estar was like the moon. And we know in Babylon, even in the Quran mentions that there were 3 different gods that they worshipped, as far as the heavenly bodies. But at the time of the leader named Nimrod, that you find the verse mentioned in Quran about him, that Ibrahim alayhi salam was actually taken by him, the one who he stood in front of, and he said, "Who is your Lord?" And he says, "My Lord, Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumeet." My Lord is the one who gives life and gives death. He says, "Qala ana uhyi wa umeet." I can give life and death too. And then he brings someone from prison, 2 people from prison, both there were sins for execution. So they're both on the way to die, and one of them, he takes off his shackles and frees him. "Your go. I emancipate you. I free you. You're gonna live." So I just gave life. See that? The other one, he ordered him to be executed. He was executed on the spot. He says, "Look, I can give death and I can give life." See? So Ibrahim, being smarter than that, not saying, "Oh, this is not what I meant." No, he immediately said, "An Rabbi alladhi yati b'shamsi min al-mashriq." My Lord is the one who could bring the sun from the east. Fa'ti biha min al-maghrib. So bring it from the west. And so this disbeliever was dumbfounded. He was bamboozled. He was speechless. Didn't have anything to say. That's what it means. He didn't have any response to Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so Nimrod, the actual king Nimrod, that's how he got the origin of his name. In fact, when he died, his wife, which was also considered by the people as a god, Astar, she says he has gone back. He didn't really die. He went back to his origin, which is to be the sun, because they said he was the sun god, right? And then later on she gave birth. Within a 9-month period, she gave birth to Tammuz. This is where the origin comes from. The Babylonians, why they believe that they're a trinity. Tammuz, she says, this is him being remanifest as a human being. Like you have a god, then they say the son of a god will be a god. Even the Prophet ﷺ, when the Christians from Najran, they came and they were arguing with him, or came and debating with him in the masjid in Medina, he used these type of arguments, the same basic logical arguments. I mean, a cat, the offspring of a cat is what? Is a kitten, is a baby cat. So in other words, by you saying that God has a son, you're saying there's another God that was given birth to, which is, as we say, inconceivable. It's like, how can you have something that has a beginning, it didn't exist, and then there's a reproducing of it. So, and you're saying he's a God. Because you're saying he has to be a God because he's the son of a God. But at the same time, a God meaning a God should not be born. So he can't be a God. So this thing which is, we wouldn't say it's illogical. The proper terminology would be probably to say it's inconceivable. I mean, the mind can't conceive it. Like if I told you someone was a married bachelor, you couldn't conceive that concept. You can't be married, you can't be a bachelor. You can't have a square triangle, or a triangle with 4 sides, right? This is inconceivable. That's a better word than saying illogical, because the Christians always try to justify these things, saying God is all powerful, he can do whatever he wants. Now God could do whatever he wants, but it's not suitable, it's not befitting for him to do things that are ungodly, do things that cause him to be ignorant or cause him to be weak, okay? Because then he's not perfect, he's flawed. If you're all powerful and you're all knowing, you don't become ignorant and you don't become weak, and so on and so forth. Without getting too much into the Aqidah. So here we have this first Trinity, and then you go throughout history. By the time Christianity or Jesus ﷺ came on the scene, actually they didn't develop their Trinity until when? Until 300 years after Jesus, like at the Council of Nicaea. Then they started to incorporate it. In fact, when Constantine became the emperor of Rome, and this is basically European, when Christianity started to spread, so in Europe they had this issue like, okay, they decided about Easter alone, actually within maybe 100 plus years. That was the first holiday, but they didn't have a birthday for Jesus. So they said, we need to do something about this holiday. There was a holiday that the pagans had in Europe, and they were practicing it on December 25th. In fact, all throughout the world, you had people practicing, had religious practices and pagan practices that were all on December 25th. Why? Because this is the winter solstice. The winter solstice is like, we should be feeling it right now. Especially in winter, the days are very short and the nights are very long. The sun sets really early. This is the best time, of course, to make tahajjud. And this is the best time to fast too, because the fasts are shortest and easiest. And so what happens by December 21st, then it reaches a peak. This is the day, December 21st or 22nd, around this time, this is the day when the day is the shortest and the night is the longest. And then there's a few days after that, and then suddenly they realize, they used to think the sun died during this time. And now when they realize the sun has come back to life again, that's when they celebrate. So around the world, they celebrated around December 25th. They just celebrate. In fact, the name of the celebration, it was from the god Saturn, which is the god of fertility. Because now, all your crops are going to die. You need spring. You need to bring life back. And so now that they see the sun is now coming back and it's going to bring life again to the earth, so that they would celebrate that. And it was called Saturnalia. The name of the holiday was Saturnalia. And so the Christians are like, what are we going to do about this? All the pagans are celebrating this. Oh, here's the solution. Let's make our belief in that Jesus was born on the very same day that the pagans celebrate Saturnalia. And so we'll have ours also on December 25th, knowing this was their strategy, that over time everyone would be celebrating on that day, and that Christianity, since it's now the official religion of the Roman Empire, and Constantine, this is what he celebrates, that everyone will celebrate it. Nevertheless, if you go, now this went on for thousands of years, right? Nevertheless, it was pretty much a holiday that people would just party and get drunk and do all sorts of crimes. So now I'm going to go way ahead into modern times. Oh, just as a side note, by the way, the 25th, December 25th, this is just where they decided the birthday of Jesus would be in the Roman Empire. In fact, in Armenian Christians, they celebrate this coming into spring, the sun starting to come back and the days starting to be longer. They celebrate it on January 6th. The Coptists celebrate it on January 7th. And the Eastern Orthodox, they celebrate it, I believe, around the 16th or the 19th. So Christmas as a holiday, the Christian holiday, is not actually agreed upon. And in fact, the Christian scholars, they say that nobody knows. All of the majority of these scholars, they say nobody knows when Jesus was really born. In fact, some of them say that most likely he was born in August, some say he was born in April. They go back to a text in the New Testament mentions about he was born during the time when people would get the crops from the field or reap the harvest. And this actually agrees according to the Quran more so, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Huzzi ilayki bi jid'in nakhlati tusaqit alayki rutaban janiyyan." And to shake the trunk of the palm tree, it will fall rutab. Rutab is the fresh dates, when they become first ripe on the tree, which happens around August, September. So definitely he was not born in December 25th. And this is what all the Christian scholars, 99% of them are saying. Yes, sister? Well,
we all are suffering from this. They came with the victory or the pictures, and we should say no or we should say no. What should we do? This is we have all this question.
Yeah. So I do want to back out from that and put everything in context. You know, when we as Muslims, I didn't obviously being a convert, didn't come to the United States. These are the trade-offs. Obviously, there's certain benefits of coming to the United States. There's certain things we can do in Dawah that we have more freedom of speech, maybe depending on which country we come from. You know, it could be dangerous actually to be involved heavily in Dawah and things like this. You know, maybe the government's being oppressive. But of one of the negative aspects of this country, in general, it's just a fact of anytime you have a minority, they get bled into the majority. So over time, as Muslims living here, unless new Muslims are constantly coming as immigrants, then people will be leaving Islam. Meaning that the minority always bleeds into the majority. And the way this is done by is indoctrination. Meaning that's the danger and that's the trade-off of having our children being raised here in the United States, is they're going to be westernized, they're going to be secularized. Even Christianity as a religion is looked down upon in the public school system, in the universities. I think maybe you all have heard of that podcaster named Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, he made a statement on one of his podcasts. He says that he was a Catholic until he went to Catholic school, and that cured him of his Catholicism. And when he said that, I realized exactly what he was saying. It was completely true, because I went to a Catholic school, high school, for 2 years. And I know how the people look at religion. They mock it. Nobody could be a practicing Catholic at a Catholic school. The only people that really believe in Catholicism are the people that don't really go through that, or at least they didn't go through the Catholic school that I went to or that Joe Rogan went to. And I was there for 2 years, and then I went to public school after that. But the point is that these are people that are supposed to be Catholic. They're going to private school, but we had a priest one year, and we had a nun this other year to teach us the Catholicism. They actually taught it in a way that made in a very bad light, to show all the corruption of the Catholic Church in history, and so on and so forth. But everyone mocked these people as backwards, right? And these are the religious figures. So they look at the religion as if it's backwards. And by the time you get to the university, if somebody has any kind of religion or any beliefs, they feel like they're not intellectual. They're not smart. So this is what we're up against with our children. For the most important thing you can do is to communicate to your child. Second thing you need to do is you need to talk with the teacher. Say that my family and my children, we are Muslims. We don't celebrate Christmas. So if you're going to have them draw pictures of Christmas trees and these kind of things, then give them something else to draw, you know, and to not be involved in those things. And there are certain, alhamdulillah, religious rights that Muslims have here that you can insist upon those rights, that they're not allowed to indoctrinate us into these type of things, even if they're just from the secular perspective of Christianity. They say, I don't want them partaking in any of this kind of stuff. If you're going to have the drawing exercise, give them something else to draw. Yeah. But the main thing is communicate to your children that the people here, you know, they are jahilun, they are ignorant, they are not Muslim, they don't know what real Islam is. If they knew, you know, they don't know the real Islam, number one. Number two is they haven't been shown that what they're doing is wrong, meaning that they're just ignorant and unaware, and that nothing of what they say goes back to Jesus, alayhi salam. So that I finish. Oh, let me talk about how how did Christianity come to be as it is today? So Christianity was actually, like, I'm talking about Christmas, December 25th. When did it become big in the United States? Let's just look at U.S. history, and then I'll finish. So in U.S. history, in the 1600s, when people first migrated here or came to the United States, the settlers, who were they? They were Puritans. The Puritans were anti-Christian, Christmas, anti-Christmas. Okay, they were very practicing Christian. They saw that Christmas had nothing to do with Christianity, and they actually outlawed the practice of Christmas as a holiday. So anyone who practiced this on December 25th, the holiday of Christmas, it would be against the law, and they were fined or they would be taken to jail. Most people don't know that, okay? So in other words, December 25th, Christmas was not something always practiced. In fact, the original people who came here, they were anti-Christmas, okay? So when did it become popular? Basically, then you started having people come that were not Puritans. They were coming from other areas in Europe, like Germany, for example. In Germany, they're the ones who believed in the Christmas tree and bringing it into the house. Okay? And then you have, so basically what Christmas is today is a hodgepodge, a mix between about four different communities and cultures that they all kind of brought together. This idea of Saint Nicholas, this goes back to Anatolia, which is today modern day Turkey. Okay? The idea of this old man, which is, you know, how they represent Santa Claus with the beard, this goes back to the Vikings. The Vikings, they believed that God was an old man with a big beard. Okay? This is their beliefs. So it's become a mix. But when did it start to grow in the United States? In the 1800s, what happened is the Queen of England, her name is Queen Victoria, she had a big kind of like postcard, you know, a drawing of them or a painting or a picture, you know, and it got spread around the world showing them with the Christmas tree. And Queen Victoria, in fact, she didn't even really know English. This is common throughout the history of the King and Queen of England. Is even like Richard the Lionheart, he didn't know English either, he was French. But at this time, Queen Victoria, she was German. So she brought this whole Christmas, she had her and the family and the Christmas tree, and it became widespread throughout the world, and so it became suddenly popular again. Okay. By the way, yeah. So the family of the kings and queens of England today, they're actually German in their ancestry, going back to Queen Victoria. But the point is about the about the 1850s. Okay, so this became widespread. And also you had the first state that made it official, I think it was Alabama, one of the states in the South that made it an official holiday. Okay, I mean, before that it wasn't even an official holiday. So it's very modern. What we're looking at Christmas today is a very modern thing. Now let's get to practical stuff. So how do you respond to somebody who tells you Merry Christmas? I'm gonna let you all give your ideas, because it's not like it has to be exactly one way or one response. So what is some of the ways you all deal with this, sisters?
I actually don't even celebrate those holidays. And that's
Oh, you actually say, I don't celebrate Christmas?
Just a smile on that face.
Yeah,
Happy holidays.
okay.
Just give them a smile.
Uh, Yeah, this is the holiday season. There are other holidays. There are non-religious, completely non-religious holidays. Because since there's a religious element to Christmas, which makes it haram for Muslims to celebrate as a holiday, then that particular holiday we're not celebrating, but you're saying that you respond by saying happy holidays because you're just covering all of the holidays, the holiday season. I don't remember which sister said that, but you say that you don't celebrate Christmas.
I don't say that because none of their
Well, even like New Year's, you know,
none of their holidays are actually even really
legitimate.
Yeah, like it's almost like a pagan holiday, but it's all about propaganda,
Yeah.
and there's no significant meaning if you really think about it. So that's why I don't say happy holidays. But they don't even feel offended because even when Anna tries to shake my hand, and I pull back, and I'm like, you can't do that, and they're like, oh. And of course we get responses like, oh, I understand, or oh, like, I feel disrespected. But it's just part of like being Muslim in this country, you know?
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of living here, that you have to do this constantly. For women, men too, men are not supposed to shake hands, right? So, the point is, if you want to follow the way the Prophet ﷺ moved, Aisha said he never shook the hand of it, he never touched a woman that wasn't, like his wife. Oh, as she said, Khalid, radiallahu anha. Yeah, so these are big challenges. Is there anyone else who has a different type of response that they give for Merry Christmas? I'll just tell you how I respond.
Yes.
Usually, I usually just say have a nice day, or I say hey if I want to, because the Prophet Allah says in the Quran, if somebody gives you salam, you say then you respond to it. أو ردوها, mean at the least you can respond to it, or you can do أحسن منها, you can do better than that, right? So if you want to respond to, because from their perspective, what they're doing is ma'ruf. It's something that's good. They're nice. They're just trying to be friendly, right? They didn't think that maybe that you're Muslim, or that you're not Christian, or maybe you don't celebrate Christmas. And there's some Christians that don't celebrate Christmas, even though they gotta be like very extremely rare. But the point is, I usually respond by saying, have a nice day or have a great day, right? Because I don't want to get into it with them. And that's when I'm like at a checkout line, or if I go to like Walmart or something, I'm checking out and there's people behind me, I don't want to get into a deep discussion why I don't celebrate Christmas, Because you have to if you're not going to shake someone's hand, you're going to say, oh, I don't shake hands. Then obviously now it's going to become now you have to get into the subject, why don't you shake hands? What's wrong? This kind of a thing. So if you're in a pressure situation where you don't want to get into it, then just respond and say something simple like, have a great day.
So,
Any other suggestions, sister?
my neighbor, I saw her like recently, and she said, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. So, I just told her, happy winter break. We can't wait to just dive into our winter break and have that rest from the school. I just was the whole idea is that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's just like if she was leaving in her car, it's not time to I'm not celebrating Christmas, and she just moved right next to us, so we don't want to like when we start to put some really strong bonds, we just wanted to make things a little more soft.
Yeah. I mean, you want to choose the time to get into the discussion, and that's similar to the way I respond. Because everyone's going to enjoy the break,
Yeah.
The fact that you don't have to work, or at least not go to school.
Cool, yeah, I don't celebrate school right away.
Any other comments or advices? Okay. Now let's talk about the the Christmas celebration itself. Okay, so you're invited by your family. Okay, so here's what happens every year. My parents live in Oklahoma, so every year or every other year I'm up there. I try to avoid being up there at Christmas time. Because I as a convert have been pressured to be there. I don't buy gifts for anyone. They would buy gifts for me, right? So what do? So they just want to give me the gifts. They still want me to open it up in front of the tree and this kind of stuff. As a newer Muslim, I go into that hating it, right? Feeling this is not right. I don't like this. And then it just came a time, especially with my wife being from overseas, and then with our children, and we just don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. I just put my foot down, and I said, here we are. We love you guys. We're here. It's been the holidays with you. But when you're going to start doing the Christmas thing, like opening up the presents, we're leaving the house, and we'll come back when you're done. That's just what I did. They hated it. They fought it like somebody was fighting. I just don't understand why you can't do it, as my mom said. Right? I just don't understand what is wrong with this. What is the problem? I just had to put my foot down and come across like I don't know. Maybe I came across to her like very stubborn. But I said, look, this is associated with a religious holiday. This is Christmas, and we're not gonna partake in this thing right here. We're going to be with the family in the morning, and then afterwards you're going to have dinner, or lunch, or whatever. We're going to be back. But when you're opening the presents and sitting in front of the tree and doing this, we're going to be gone. We're not going to be here. That's just what I did. And initially there was a bunch of resistance, but they got over it, and now they know that these Muslims are Muslim family members. They put the foot down on this issue, and alhamdulillah, it's not a problem. After they got used to knowing that this is our stance, and we just don't want to partake in that. And I also tried to make up for that fact that because they still, I don't think they gave gifts to me for a long time, but they try to give gifts to my children, right? So their grandchildren. What grandparent doesn't love to shower their grandchildren with gifts? And again, since we missed that ceremony, then it's not associated so much with Christmas. And if you give them a gift, I'm not going to stop them from giving them a gift. But at the same time, I try to give gifts to my parents on other occasions, so it balances out. It doesn't look like the Muslim is bakhil, is stingy, and doesn't want to give, and we're the ones giving, and So these are the kind of ways that I've dealt with it. Huh?
In this case, the grandkids, they're allowed to accept.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. Because their intention of why they're giving the gift is they're just following the culture of giving the gifts. And again, of course, this doesn't have anything to do with the religious beliefs of what Christianity believes. The giving of the gift has nothing to do with believing that God has become a man and has been born and is a baby and now will live his life to die. And the belief of the salvation of the cross and all that. It has zero to do with that, right? You're just giving him a gift. But the actual ceremony of the, and just, I want to share something with you all, just so you know. From the Jewish perspective, in the Old Testament, these kind of things were not allowed. There's actually a verse in Jeremiah that mentions about that do not be like the pagans who bring a tree in from the house and they decorate it. I'll actually read the actual verse. In Jeremiah chapter 10, it says, "This is what the Lord says: Do not learn the ways of the nations, the non-Israelite nations." They probably use the word in Hebrew, the goyim, as the Jews call the Gentiles, right? Because that's what they use the word for nations. For the customs of the peoples are worthless. For they cut down the tree from the forest, and craftsmen shave it in with a chisel, and they adorn it with gold and silver, and they fasten it with hammers and nails so it will not fall over. Right? So this is biblical, right? And there are some Christian, even religious scholars that have come out in history saying that Christmas has nothing to do with Christianity and is actually against Christianity, and some that have not celebrated it. But all of that is all beside the point, because that's not going to convince any Christian to suddenly stop practicing Christmas, because it's about culture dominates over actual religious legitimacy. They could care less about it.